My name is Emily Carter. I'm 23 years old and I live in Phoenix, Arizona. By day, I'm a waitress at a diner on the edge of downtown. But that's never been the whole story. If I had to define myself, I'd say this: I'm resilient. I bend, but I don't break, not even when it feels like my own family wants me to. My mom laughed at me in front of everyone, called me a disgrace for working as a waitress, and said I'd never amount to anything. What she didn't know was that the diner's owner would soon call me something she could never take away. Boss. If you're listening right now, please like and subscribe. It helps me more than you realize. And tell me in the comments, has someone ever mocked you for a job you worked hard at? I'd love to know your story and where you're watching from. The night my mom humiliated me is etched in my memory like it happened yesterday. It was a Saturday evening, one of our busiest nights at the diner. The place was buzzing, families laughing in booths, couples leaning close at the counter, waitresses balancing trays piled with burgers and milkshakes. I wore my uniform, hair tied back, apron pockets stuffed with receipts. I was tired, sure, but there's a pride in working hard and making your own way. I carried that pride with me until she walked in, my mother. She never came to see me at work. Not once. But that night, she strolled in with two of her friends, dressed to the nines, diamonds glittering under the fluorescent lights. They slid into a booth, barely glancing at the menu. When I walked over, pad in hand, she looked up at me with a smirk. "Well, well," she said loudly, making sure the tables nearby could hear. "Our Emily still playing waitress. Didn't I tell you you'd never get anywhere without a real degree?" Her friends laughed softly, one of them whispering, "So this is what she does now?" My throat went dry. I forced a smile, pen trembling in my hand. "Can I get you something to drink?" Mom leaned back, eyes glinting with mockery. "Sure, get me a glass of water. Since that's all you can afford these days." Her friends burst into laughter. Heads turned from other tables. I felt my face burn hot, shame crawling up my neck. I delivered their drinks, plastering on the fake smile that every server knows too well. But inside I was crumbling. Every word from her felt like a dagger. "Emily," she said again, her voice rising. "You know, when I told people my daughter would make something of herself, I didn't mean carrying plates," I wanted to shout back, to tell her I was paying my bills without anyone's help. To remind her that while she sat at home criticizing, I was surviving, but the words stuck in my throat. When I walked back to the counter, one of the regulars, a kind old man who always tipped extra, looked at me with quiet sympathy. "You don't deserve that," he whispered. And in that moment, I felt the truth burning in my chest. He was right, but my mom wasn't done yet. As they finished their meal, she waved me over, tossing a few bills onto the table with exaggerated flair. "Here, honey," she said, smirking. "A little extra for you. Don't spend it all in one place." The way she said it, it wasn't kindness. It was a pity, mockery. My hand shook as I picked up the money. My eyes stung, but I refused to cry in front of her, and then, as she slid out of the booth, she whispered in my ear, low and cutting, "You'll never be anything but this." That night, I drove home in silence. Her words clung to me, heavy and suffocating. But what my mom didn't realize was that humiliation is like fire. It burns you, yes, but it also forges you. And while she laughed at me in that diner, she had no idea that one day I'd own it, because sometimes the cruelest words don't break you, they build you. And soon, she'd learn that I wasn't just a waitress, I was her reckoning. People say childhood shapes you. If that's true, then mine shaped me into someone who learned early that silence keeps the peace, and peace always favored my mother. On the outside, my mom was the kind of woman people envied. Always put together, hair curled, nails painted, smile polished for church on Sundays. She volunteered at charity drives, made speeches at community events, and people called her inspiring. But inside the walls of our home, inspiring wasn't the word I'd use. Overbearing, critical, sharp. My father had left when I was 10, worn down by her endless nagging and demands. After that, it was just me, my younger brother Ethan, and her. And to her, I was never enough. We had family dinners every Friday night. Ethan always got to share his week first, his soccer goals, his A's on math tests. Mom clapped, gushed, and piled more food onto his plate. When it was my turn, the room shifted. Oh, Emily got a B? Well, Ethan had an A. Oh, Emily drew a picture? Cute. Ethan scored twice in his game. Every achievement I had was measured against Ethan's, and every time I came up short. I stopped sharing after a while. It was easier that way. Despite that, I loved Ethan. He wasn't cruel, just oblivious, soaking up Mom's affection without realizing I starved for scraps. He'd pat my shoulder sometimes, whispering, "Don't listen to her. You're good at stuff too." But when you hear the same criticism over and over from the person who's supposed to love you unconditionally, it seeps in. By high school, I believed her voice more than my own. When I graduated, my dream was to study hospitality management. I wanted to work in restaurants, hotels, and create spaces where people felt welcome. I told my mom over breakfast one morning, my hands shaking with excitement. She looked at me over her coffee mug and snorted. "Hospitality? Emily, that's not a career. That's just glorified waiting tables. You'll never get far in that." Her words landed like stones in my stomach. She pushed the conversation aside and turned to Ethan. "So, about your engineering scholarship." And just like that, my dream was dismissed, erased. I didn't have the money for college right away, so I took a waitressing job at the diner. It wasn't glamorous, but it was honest. I liked the buzz of it. The sizzling pans in the kitchen, the laughter of customers, the small kindnesses exchanged in tips and smiles. For the first time, I felt like I belonged somewhere. But at home? Mom rolled her eyes every time I put on my uniform. "You smell like grease when you come home." Don't expect me to brag about this to my friends. She made sure I knew. In her eyes, I wasn't building a future. I was wasting one. One Christmas, the whole family gathered at my aunt's house. I sat quietly at the table, sipping cider, while Mom held court with her usual flair. "My Ethan's studying engineering," she announced proudly. Top of his class, full scholarship. Applause and admiration circled the room. Then Aunt Carol turned to me kindly. "And you, Emily? What are you up to these days?" Before I could answer, Mom chimed in with a smirk. "Emily? Oh, she's serving food. Making sure people get their fries hot." The laughter stung. My cheeks burned. I excused myself early, claiming I had to work. But really, I just couldn't stand the weight of her words. Looking back, all the signs were there. The favoritism, the dismissal, the public mockery is disguised as jokes. But what I didn't realize at the time was this. Every insult, every dig, every cruel laugh, she wasn't just belittling me. She was setting the stage for her own downfall. Because when someone underestimates you long enough, they forget that resilience has a way of turning into power. And the night at the diner, when she laughed in front of her friends? That was the moment the cracks in her mask began to spread. She thought mocking me made her stronger, but she didn't know that I was already building something bigger, something that would leave her speechless. And soon, she'd collapse under the weight of her own cruelty. If part 2 was about being invisible, part 3 was when I started realizing invisibility wasn't the worst thing. Mockery was. Because at least invisibility didn't draw laughter. But by the time I turned 21, the mockery wasn't just private. It became her favorite form of entertainment. On my 21st birthday, I hoped for something, anything that might feel special. I worked the morning shift at the diner, smiling as customers slipped me a few extra dollars when they heard it was my big day. When I got home, the dining table was set with balloons and a cake. My heart lifted. But as I leaned closer, I saw the candles didn't read 21. They read, "Congrats, Ethan." He had just landed an internship at a tech company. When I asked, my mom shrugged. "We couldn't celebrate both." "His news is bigger," I whispered. "It was supposed to be my birthday." she smirked. Then maybe you should have achieved something worth celebrating. That spring, the diner held a charity breakfast event. We raised money for the local shelter, and I had the honor of coordinating it. I poured myself into it, planning the menu, decorating tables, making sure everything ran smoothly. It was the first time my boss, Mr. Garcia, really noticed me. He clapped me on the back and said, "Emily, you've got talent for this. Ever thought about running a place?" My chest swelled with pride, until my mother's voice cut through. She had shown up uninvited, dragging Ethan with her. Running a place? She can barely run her life. Don't fill her head with nonsense. People laughed awkwardly. I wanted to disappear. Later, Ethan muttered. She shouldn't have said that, but the damage was done. A few months later, my mom called everyone into the driveway. Ethan stood there, beaming beside a shiny used Honda Civic. "Look what we got for him," she said proudly, jingling the keys. I clapped politely, though inside I felt a familiar ache. She noticed. "Don't pout, Emily," she sneered. "If you wanted a car, you should have gone to college instead of wasting your time in that diner." I whispered, "I'm saving for one myself." She rolled her eyes. "Oh, please. You'll be 30 before you can afford a scooter." One night, I came home from a late shift. My pay envelope, cash tips I'd been carefully saving for school, was missing from my drawer. I searched everywhere, my hands shaking. When I confronted my mom, she didn't even pretend. "Oh, that?" I borrowed it. Ethan needed supplies for his internship. I stared at her. "That was my money. Weeks of work," she smirked. "Relax, you'll make more. At least his future is worth investing in." Something inside me cracked that night. I didn't yell. I didn't slam doors. I just sat on my bed, clutching the empty envelope, whispering to myself, "She's wrong. I'll prove her wrong." And for the first time, the words didn't feel like wishful thinking. They felt like a promise. Because little did she know, every insult she threw at me wasn't breaking me anymore. It was sharpening me. And the night she mocked me in front of the entire diner? That was the night her reign ended. It was a Friday evening, the busiest shift of the week. The diner smelled of sizzling burgers and fresh pie, the clatter of dishes blending with the hum of conversation. I moved quickly between tables, balancing trays, scribbling orders, my body tired but my spirit steady, until I saw her. My mother walked in with 3 of her friends from her church group. They were overdressed for a diner, heels clicking, perfume clouding the air, laughter sharp and brittle. I froze mid-step, praying she'd choose another Waitress's section. But luck wasn't on my side. They slid into one of my booths. My pen felt heavier than ever as I walked over. "What can I get you ladies tonight?" Her eyes sparkled with mischief. She was waiting for an audience. "Well," she said loudly, "I told you all my daughter works here. And here she is, carrying plates instead of a diploma." The table erupted in giggles. My face burned hot. One of her friends asked, "Do you get free food at least?" Mom smirked. "Oh, she gets tips. You know, spare change? Enough for gas money if she's lucky." The laughter was louder this time. A nearby couple glanced over, whispering to each other. I forced a smile. "Would you like water to start?" Her voice rose again. "Oh yes, water." It's all she ever serves. Water and disappointment. I hurried to the kitchen, heart pounding, eyes stinging. But when I came back, she wasn't finished. As I placed their plates down, she leaned back, arms crossed. "Emily, tell them, what's your big plan? Going to be a waitress forever? Or maybe you'll graduate to flipping burgers?" Her friends howled with laughter. I whispered, "Mom, please stop." But she leaned in close, her words sharp enough to slice. "You'll never be more than this, Emily. Never." The diner went quiet. Even the cook peeked out from the kitchen window. Mr. Garcia, the owner, stood at the counter, watching with narrowed eyes. My mother didn't notice. She was too busy basking in the humiliation she thought she'd orchestrated. I wanted to cry, to scream, to run. But something inside me hardened instead. Her words echoed, but this time they didn't sting the same way. They sparked. They ignited, and though I didn't know it yet, that moment, the moment she tried to crush me in front of everyone, was the exact moment her power over me began to crumble. I walked away, head high, tears burning behind my eyes but refusing to fall. And behind me, I heard Mr. Garcia's voice, firm and commanding. "Mrs. Carter," he said. Enough, the room stilled. My mother's laugh faltered, but what happened next would change everything. After that night at the diner, I didn't sleep. I lay on my bed staring at the ceiling, hearing her laughter echo in my ears, replaying every word. "You'll never be more than this." She'd said it like a prophecy, as if my fate had already been sealed, and what hurt most? For a moment, I believed her. The next morning, Ethan came by my room. He leaned against the doorframe, shifting uncomfortably. "You okay?" he asked softly. I forced a smile. "I'm fine." But I wasn't. I went to work with swollen eyes, brushing off questions from coworkers with half-hearted jokes. "Allergies," I told them. At home, Mom carried on as if nothing had happened. She hummed in the kitchen, bragged about Ethan's new opportunities, and treated me like background noise. I felt invisible again. But this time it was worse. Because I wasn't just ignored, I was erased. One night, after another grueling shift, I found her sitting in the living room with Ethan and Dad. "Look at her," she said, pointing like I wasn't even human, dragging herself home, smelling like grease. "Who'd want to marry that? Who'd want to hire that?" Dad chuckled. Ethan looked away. I wanted to scream, but my throat tightened. Instead, I rushed to my room, slammed the door, and finally let the tears fall. I curled on the floor, whispering, "Why am I never enough?" But then something strange happened. In the silence of that room, I remembered Mr. Garcia's words from the charity event. "Emily, you've got talent for this. Ever thought about running a place?" His voice replayed in my head, clear and firm, and for the first time his words were louder than hers. I sat up slowly, wiping my tears. Maybe I wasn't enough for her. But what if I were enough for myself? The next day at the diner, Mr. Garcia pulled me aside. "Listen, kid, don't let anyone make you small. You've got something in you." "I see it," I whispered. "You really think so?" He nodded. "I know so. And if you want to learn the ropes, I'll teach you." That was the moment the light cracked through the darkness. I still hurt. I still doubted myself. But beneath it all, there was a spark of something new, determination. That night, I sat at my desk, staring at my empty savings jar, the one Mom had stolen from. I clenched my fists. She thought she'd stolen my future. But I whispered to myself, "She won't break me." Not this time. And I began to plan, because the same woman who called me worthless, she had no idea I was about to become the one thing she feared most, independent and untouchable. Revenge doesn't always start with fireworks. Sometimes it begins in silence. In small, steady steps no one notices until it's too late. For me, it started the morning after I decided I wouldn't stay broken. At the diner, I stopped working. I started watching. When Mr. Garcia negotiated with suppliers, I lingered close, jotting notes on invoices. When he adjusted payroll, I peeked over his shoulder, absorbing the numbers. One evening, I asked, "Mr. Garcia, would you mind teaching me? Not just the job, the business." He raised an eyebrow. "The business?" I nodded. "I want to learn how to run this place, not just serve in it." After a long pause, he smiled. "All right, Emily, but it's not glamorous. It's late nights, paperwork, stress. I can handle it." So he taught me. I learned how to balance accounts, manage inventory, negotiate deals, and handle unhappy customers with grace. I practiced till it became second nature. On my days off, I went to the library, reading books on entrepreneurship, hospitality, and management. At night, while my mom gossiped with neighbors and laughed at my dead-end job, I was secretly designing my future. I whispered to myself, "They'll see. One day they'll see." I also started saving again, this time smarter. Instead of keeping cash at home, I opened a separate account in my name only. I deposited every tip, every spare dollar. I even took on catering gigs through the diner to earn extra. My mother never suspected. She thought I was still scraping by, barely making rent, and I let her believe it. Because sometimes the sweetest revenge isn't immediate. It's letting them underestimate you until the reveal shatters them. One night, as I closed up the diner, Ethan showed up. He looked sheepish. "Hey, can I talk?" I crossed my arms. "What is it?" He shifted. I know Mom's been rough, and I didn't stop her. I should have. I didn't know what to say. He continued. "For what it's worth, I think you're stronger than she'll ever admit." It wasn't an apology, but it was something. A reminder that not everyone in that house was my enemy. By my 22nd birthday, I wasn't just a waitress anymore. I was Mr. Garcia's unofficial assistant manager. I handled shifts, stocked supplies, and even filled in for him when he was sick. And then he said something that made my heart stop. "Emily, I'm thinking of retiring in a year or two. I'd rather sell this place to someone who cares about it than to a stranger." I blinked. "You'd sell it." "To me?" He grinned. "If you're serious, start getting ready. Learn everything. Build your credit, save, then we'll talk." That night, I couldn't sleep. The girl who was mocked for being a waitress forever? She might soon own the very place her mother laughed at. But here's the thing. I didn't tell my family. Not a word. I wanted them to keep mocking me, to keep underestimating me, because when the truth came out, it wouldn't just be a surprise, it would be a collapse. So I kept smiling at dinner when Mom called me a failure. I nodded when she bragged about Ethan. I stayed quiet when she sneered at my apron. All the while, I was setting the stage for the moment she'd choke on her own words. And when Mr. Garcia finally handed me the keys to the diner, I knew exactly how I'd make sure she was there to see it. Not just like my mother, but as a witness to her own downfall. The first time I felt it, the shift, the tiniest tremor of power, I almost didn't believe it was real. For so long, I'd been the family's punching bag. But now, something had changed. By midsummer, Mr. Garcia officially named me assistant manager. I started wearing slacks instead of jeans, carrying a clipboard, and giving directions to staff. Some rolled their eyes. She's just the waitress who got promoted. But most listened. And when I caught a server slipping money from the register, I handled it. Calm, firm, professional. Mr. Garcia watched from the corner and nodded. "Good work," he said later. "You've got backbone, Emily." His words didn't just fill me with pride, they hardened my resolve. At home, I stayed quiet, but I no longer flinched. One night, Mom bragged again about Ethan's internship. "One day he'll make 6 figures. Meanwhile, Emily will still be asking if people want fries with that." I set my fork down, met her eyes, and said, "Actually, Mom, people already ask me for advice." "Not fries." The table went silent. She laughed, sharp and dismissive. But I saw it, a flicker of unease in her eyes. For the first time, she flinched. The diner began to feel like mine in spirit, even before it was mine in name. I revamped the menu layout, launched a weekend brunch special, and partnered with the local college for student discounts. Sales went up, Mr. Garcia told me. "Emily, this place hasn't thrived like this in years. Every compliment was a brick. Building the foundation of the empire I was quietly creating. And every night, as I counted cash at the register, I pictured Mom's face when she finally realized the truth. One evening, Ethan pulled me aside. "Look, Em, I've been thinking. Mom's wrong about you. You're not a failure. You're the only one holding this family together." I blinked at him. "Why are you telling me this now?" He hesitated. "Because Mom's been bragging to everyone that when Mr. Garcia retires, he's going to leave you jobless. She says no one would be dumb enough to put you in charge." My chest tightened. She wasn't just mocking me anymore. She was spreading the poison. That Sunday, she came to the diner again, this time dragging 2 neighbors with her. She sat down, loud as ever. "See, my daughter works here. Isn't it cute? Maybe she'll marry a fry cook." Her friends chuckled politely. But this time, instead of shrinking, I stepped forward. "Welcome to the diner," I said clearly, smiling. "I'm the assistant manager here. If you need anything, my staff will take care of you." Her jaw tightened. For the first time, she didn't have a comeback. That night, as I locked up, Mr. Garcia said, "You handled that with grace. You didn't stoop to her level." And I realized, revenge wasn't about screaming louder. It was about being undeniable. Every small win was proof that her words no longer defined me. But I didn't know then that she was planning something bigger, a betrayal so sharp, it would either ruin me completely or set the stage for the most satisfying revenge of my life. By autumn, I was no longer just learning the ropes. I was holding them. Mr. Garcia had grown tired, and little by little, he handed me full control. Scheduling, inventory, payroll, marketing. I wasn't a waitress anymore. I was running the diner. And then, one crisp October evening, it happened. The moment I'd been waiting for. Mr. Garcia gathered the staff. His voice cracked with age, but his eyes were warm. "Everyone," he said, "I've decided it's time to step back. This place has been my life for 30 years. But it deserves fresh energy." He turned to me. "Emily, you're that energy. As of today, this diner belongs to you." The staff gasped. My hands trembled as he pressed the keys into my palm. But the moment wasn't complete. Not yet. Because she wasn't there. Not yet. As if fate had heard my thoughts, the front door swung open. My mother walked in, heels clicking, perfume choking, dragging Ethan and Dad behind her. She'd dressed up, clearly on her way to show off somewhere, and then she saw the staff gathered, clapping. "What's all this?" she demanded. Mr. Garcia smiled. "A celebration. Emily's now the owner of the diner." Her laugh was sharp, cruel. "Owner? Don't be ridiculous. She can't even balance her own life." But then she saw the keys in my hand. "The letterhead is in my name." The staff member smiled at me, her face drained of color. I stepped forward, my voice steady. "Mom, this is my diner now. I'm not just your waitress daughter anymore. I'm the boss." Gasps rippled through the room. Even Dad's jaw dropped. Ethan stared at me like he'd never seen me before. Her lips trembled, but no words came out. For the first time, my silence was louder than her mockery. She tried to laugh it off. "This is some kind of joke. Emily couldn't run a lemonade stand." But then Mr. Garcia stepped in, firm. "It's no joke. She's earned this. Every bit of it." The neighbors at a nearby table turned, whispering. Staff members nodded. The room wasn't laughing at me anymore. They were watching her crumble, and when she realized no one was on her side, her hand gripped the edge of a chair. Her knees wobbled. She sat down hard, pale, gasping. It wasn't fainting. It was a collapse. The kind that happens when the foundation of your power is ripped out from under you. I looked at her, my heart pounding. This was it. The moment I'd dreamed of. "You always told me I'd be nothing," I said quietly, but the diner was so silent, everyone heard. "But today, Mom, I'm everything you said I couldn't be." Her eyes flickered with rage. With shame. With something I'd never seen before, fear, but this was only the beginning. Because while I finally held the keys to my future, my mother wasn't done trying to destroy it, and the fallout of that night would test every ounce of strength I had left. The diner felt different after that night. The air was lighter, the staff smiled more, and customers greeted me with respect instead of pity. But at home, the air was heavier than ever. My mother stopped speaking to me altogether. She didn't yell, didn't mock, didn't throw her usual jabs. Instead, she weaponized silence. She slammed doors louder than necessary, scraped her fork across her plate at dinner, and looked through me like I was a ghost. At first, I thought it was peace. But soon I realized it was war, just a quieter one. Ethan, however, couldn't stop asking questions. "So, you really own it? Like legally? Papers and everything?" "Yes," I told him. He let out a low whistle. "Wow, Mom told everyone you were going to get fired any day now." I shrugged. "Guess she was wrong." He laughed nervously. Guess so. And from that day, I noticed he looked at me differently. Not with mockery, but with something like admiration. Dad remained quiet. He didn't defend me, but he didn't mock me either. He just seemed conflicted. One night, as he sat watching TV, he muttered, "Your mom just wants what's best for you." I stared at him. By tearing me down? He didn't answer, but silence wasn't her only weapon. Within weeks, rumors began swirling. Customers whispered that my promotion was fake, that Mr. Garcia had only gifted me the diner out of pity, that I was in way over my head. I didn't need to guess who started those rumors. When I confronted her, she smirked. "Oh, don't look at me. I'm just telling people the truth. You're a waitress playing dress-up." Something inside me snapped. "Maybe," I said, "but this waitress pays the bills now. And one day, Mom, you'll wish you'd been proud instead of cruel." Her smile faltered. Running the diner wasn't easy. Long nights, endless paperwork, constant pressure. It was exhausting. But every time I thought about quitting, I remembered her words. "You'll never be more than this." And that became fuel. My body ached, my eyes burned from sleepless nights, but my spirit grew stronger. One evening, Ethan came by the diner. He sat at the counter, watching me juggle orders and payroll with ease. Finally, he said, "You know, Em, I think Mom's scared of you." I froze. "Scared?" He nodded. "Yeah, because you proved her wrong, and now she can't control you anymore." His words settled deep inside me. Maybe that was it. Maybe this whole time her mockery wasn't about me being weak. It was about her being afraid I'd be strong. The house grew colder. My mother stopped inviting me to family dinners. She organized outings with Ethan and Dad, deliberately excluding me. I should have felt hurt. Instead, I felt free, because while they were dining out, I was signing contracts, meeting suppliers, and slowly transforming the diner into something more. I wasn't their servant anymore. I was building my empire. And as winter came, so did the town's annual Christmas banquet, an event my mother lived for. She didn't know it yet, but that night, she wouldn't just see her daughter as a waitress, she'd see her daughter as untouchable. The Christmas banquet was always my mother's stage. She lived for it, dressed in glittering gowns, parading Ethan around as her golden child, dropping subtle jabs about my little waitress job. But this year was different. This year, I walked into the banquet hall not as her failure, but as someone untouchable. The hall was filled with neighbors, co-workers, and townsfolk. The mayor gave a speech, the choir sang carols, and then the announcer began recognizing local businesses. "And now," he said, "let's applaud the new owner of Garcia's Diner, one of the most successful small businesses in our town this year, Emily Carter." Applause erupted. I rose to my feet, heart pounding, and walked toward the stage. My mother's gasp echoed louder than the clapping. When the announcer shook my hand and handed me a certificate of recognition, I saw her face, white as snow, eyes wide, mouth slightly open as though words had betrayed her. And then, she sat down heavily, clutching her purse, unable to look anyone in the eye. I leaned into the microphone. "This diner has been part of my life since I was 18. I've worked every position, learned every detail, and built a family here. To anyone who's ever been told they're not enough, I want you to know, you are. Don't let anyone take that away from you." The applause was thunderous, and when I stepped down, I didn't look at her. I didn't need to. At home, the silence was different now. Not heavy, not hostile, just empty. She no longer mocked me. She no longer bragged about me. She no longer tried to erase me, because deep down she knew she couldn't. One night, Ethan came to the diner, sitting at the counter like he had when we were kids. "You did it," he said softly. I smiled. "I had to." He nodded, looking down. I think I'm proud of you." For once I believed him. I didn't need her apology. I didn't need her praise, because the truth was simple. Her words no longer defined me. My actions did. And every time I unlocked the diner's doors in the morning, I reminded myself, this wasn't just a job. It was proof that I had built something lasting, something that belonged to me. And the woman who once mocked me as a failure waitress? She now walked into my diner and waited to be served. If this story touched you, please like and subscribe. It means more than you know. Tell me, if someone doubted you your whole life, would you forgive them once you proved them wrong, or would you walk away forever? I'd love to hear your thoughts.